video, I'm going to be teaching a sort of standard version of Blackberry Blossom, similar to how it's played on the fiddle a lot of the time, just an octave lower. It's dense, it's notey, it's got a lot of scale runs and arpeggios in it, and I'll break it down kind of phrase by phrase, and then talk about the theory and technique going on, and give practice tips all along the way. And then I'm going to go into a few licks and variations that you can check out in TuneFox, and again talk about theory, technique, and practice tips with those also. This one's a good one to learn just because it's a really common jam tune. The version that we're doing is pretty tough, so it's going to be maybe one that you'll want to woodshed for a while and practice for a while, but it's got a lot of good common musical elements that you'll see in fiddle tunes and music in general. Like I said, those scale runs and arpeggios are great. And it's going to be a good reason for you to also practice those scale patterns and arpeggios separately, along with just learning the tune. So as I said, I'll be kind of deconstructing what's going on, talking about the musical elements being used, and if we can understand it, it can help us memorize it better, learn it quicker, and if we can sort of reverse engineer this stuff, then if we know the theory behind it, the scales used behind it, we can sort of re-engineer our own variations as well. So basically, it's going to help you come up with your own licks for this tune and other similar ones that have similar chord progressions and that are in the same key and use the same G shapes. Alright, so I'm going to teach this a measure at a time, just the basic version that we have in TuneFox. There's a lot of licks that will show you some alternate fingerings and stuff like that, and I'll sort of talk through that as I go as well. But I'm just going to do the basic version as we have it and go basically a measure at a time here. Alright, so starting here in measure 1, we've got this descending, we call it a folded scale pattern. Okay, we're going to jump from G to B, pick down up, and then we're going to go A to G on the G string, second fret to open, and again pick down up. So this descending scale pattern, it's a lot of like little 4-note patterns, and while it's good to maybe practice, a measure at a time or a couple measures at a time, I think it's also really good just to take one of these 4-note patterns and just do it repeatedly till you really get it under your fingers and in your ears. So I'm going to do that with this first 4-note pattern, going G, B, A, G, and just do that repeatedly. Okay, an option for here, instead of playing your B on the open string, we can play that B with a ring finger on the 4th fret, and if you're not as experienced with fretting hand stuff, maybe that's a little bit more of a challenge, but it ends up being easier at high speeds because we avoid a string crossing. String crossings are one of the toughest things, I think, on flat picking guitar. So keeping everything on one string here for this first 4-note run. Makes it a lot easier on your picking hand, especially when you're going at higher speeds. Okay, so the next little 4-note pattern in measure 1, we're going from this F sharp, which is on the 4th fret of the D string, to this A. Again, picking down up. If you notice, we're alternating this whole time. This A that's on the 2nd fret of the G string, so going down, up there, and then down on the open G, and then up on the F sharp, again on the D string, and I'll play that a few times. If you notice, the only thing that's moving is that first finger, right? I'm lifting it up and down. So if you can leave fingers down, usually we want to do it. It just makes things a bit more efficient, a bit smoother. Now sometimes you might want to lift them slightly so some notes aren't ringing, but in this case, if you can do this can help with your speed immensely, just being able to leave fingers down and not always lifting a finger if you don't need to. Measure 1 starts with a G chord, and the scale run starts on a G note. All we're doing is going from the first note of the scale, jumping up to the 3rd, walking back to the 2nd, and then going to the open note. So the scale run matches the chord. We're literally starting on the root of that chord note. And when we go to the D, we're starting on an F sharp note, but that F sharp note is actually part of a D chord. See that note right there? That's an F sharp, right? It's part of a D chord. We're just starting on a lower F sharp. And again, we're making a skip up and then walking back down the scale. Right? So the skip up and walking back down to that chord note, that F sharp that matches the D. All right, here in measure 2, we're starting on this E note on the 2nd fret of the D string, then doing an up pick on the open G, and then down pick on this F sharp of the D string, up pick on the E. Okay, I'll play that a few times. Funny, it sounds really minory right there, right? Out of context, I guess, when we don't have the C chord playing behind it. Even then, it still sounds a little bit minory. But when everything's going really fast, it doesn't have quite that sad a sound. It's funny when you take things out of context, how they can sound a lot different than in the context of being around a lot of other major happy sounding stuff. Want to point out again, this, again, we're doing these descending G major scale runs, and this one is starting on a note right out of the C major chord, this E note, right? We can see it right there when we have the C formed. It's really good in your mind to connect chord shapes to scales and scale patterns. It just really helps you understand things and eventually gives you the knowledge to start creating your own variations. So when I'm playing the C chord, I'm in first position, which means my first finger's hanging out around the 1st fret. But for most of this Blackberry Blossom, especially the A part, we're going to be in 2nd position. First finger hanging out around the 2nd fret. All right, so at this point in measure 2, after the little 4-note run right there, we've got a G chord coming up. And we're going to start our run on an open D note. And at this point, we're going to go to a more pentatonic approach, right? The major pentatonic scale is another just variation of the major scale that leaves out a few notes. Again, learn and memorize your G major scale and a lot of your other common ones like your C, A, and D. They're going to be really useful, and we're going to use them here as well. So far, we've had this descending scale run. We've got these little 4-note patterns, and it's all being built around just a basic descending scale. Like we've got the G, and it's da-da-da-da, then the F sharp, da-da-da-da, then the E, da-da-da-da, and now we're to a D note, and as I said, we're going to switch things up here and go to a more pentatonic approach. So for this one, we're just going to go from the open D into this B note on the A string, pick up, open A, picking down, and then back to this B with an up. And so it's a little bit of pentatonic, and it's also going to help us walk into the first note of the next measure, which is going to be a C note. Right, really nice. It's going to help lead us into the next measure. So I'll play this little 4-note pattern a couple of times. Sleepy sounding, especially when played slow, but we want to go slow and get things right at first. We don't want to try to take on too much, and we definitely don't want to try to take it on too fast. We want to break it up into pieces, make it easy, get it right, and put in those repetitions. Okay, so here in measure 3, we got there's a C to a G change happening, and we're just going to do pentatonic runs on both of them. Okay, that's really just going up the C major pentatonic scale there for a second. So I'm going down on this C note, A string 3rd fret, playing right out of that chord shape. Again, mentally connecting chord shapes to scale shapes is good. Then I'm going to go up on the open D, down on this E note, right in the chord, and then up on the G, right? So I'm just going to play this one a few times. Nice sound. Sounds kind of dreamy and hopeful. Okay, and you can see on this one we're starting from the C and going up the scale, right? We're gonna start from this D note in the G and go down the G pentatonic scale. Right, nice little kind of response there. So we're going down on D, up on B, which is the second fret of the A string, down on the A, up on the G, third fret of the E string. I'll play that a few times. Again, you can see I'm leaving fingers down, right? Not lifting them if I don't have to. Something else I want to point out, we've got some alternate fingering options. You know, I was playing these right out of the chord shapes so that you guys could easily visualize that. But usually if I'm playing this, I'm going to opt to stay in second position since I'm not playing the whole chord. So I would have my middle finger at the third fret for this C chord of the A string and my index at the second fret of the D. Right, play that a few times. And then for the G, you just shift that same little shape up to the strings above and we do the descending one. Okay, and staying in that second position is good because we're going to be in it for this next measure when we play over this A7 to D change. Okay, so for this A7 to D change, we're just going to do a couple of ascending pentatonic runs again, staying in this pentatonic theme until we come back around to the second half of the A part. So we're going to start on the A string open, go down, then up on the B note, second fret, down on the C sharp. Again, we're in second position here. You can see I've got my first finger on the second fret, ring finger on the third, and then I'm going to go up on this E note, second fret of the D string. I'll play that a few times. Okay, so this is the one, if you want to leave these fingers down to the end, you can get a nice little almost chord ring with both of those notes ringing at the same time. Right? Or we can kind of release the pressure but not totally take that finger off the string. And it really separates the notes. So that's one of those options I was talking about where while leaving fingers down can help with speed, sometimes we might want to have something not sustained to kind of separate the notes. It can make things a little bit clearer when playing at slow or even fast speeds. We're going to do the same kind of run on the D major. Luckily for where we are, it's going to be the same exact shape. We're just going to start on the D string. So open D, up on the E note, first finger, second fret, down on the F sharp, fourth fret, and then up on the A, second fret of the G string. I'll play that a few times. Again, something about just a simple ascending pentatonic run. It kind of has this almost hopeful feeling, especially when played slow. I think as you're learning these scales and these chords, it's good to have some sort of feeling association with the notes you're playing. I think it can help you internalize the sounds a lot better. It can help you understand it like personally almost, and even memorize these types of sounds so that, you know, maybe when you hear it in a recording, you can identify, oh, that's a pentatonic sound, or oh, that's a major sound. And that's something that leads to you building up your ear skills and down the road start to learning more by ear. All right, measures 5 and 6 are the exact same as measures 1 and 2. So if you have those down, you won't need to practice measures 5 and 6 until you start trying to put together the whole song, the whole A section, or maybe a half of the A section. This is really common in fiddle tunes to have repeating phrases. So I'm going to play just the first half of the Blackberry Blossom, everything together, so you start to get a little bit of the bigger picture, right? We had the microscope zoomed in on these little pieces. Now let's take a look at the bigger picture of what's happening, because we're doing a part of the song that's repeating. So we'll play through it a little bit. the exact same phrase as the first one. So again, common in fiddle tunes to have repeating phrases, and when you're learning a new tune, identify those parts that repeat so that when you're first learning it, you can focus on the small pieces and getting those down well. And it's going to be a lot easier to learn in these little bits, and it's going to make things feel less overwhelming and just make your practice more effective. Measures 7 and 8. Measure 7 is only slightly different from measure 3 because as we're going into measure 8, we're getting ready to end the section, so it's not gonna, we're gonna end on a note that doesn't have as much of a question to it, right? We're gonna go back to home, back to G here at the end, and measure 7 is starting to set us up for that because we're gonna end it kind of in measure 8. So here in measure 7, starting out sort of the same, we got this ascending run on the C chord, but instead of going down on the G here where we did this in measure 3, which set us up for that C note, we're just gonna again start on the D, but again go to a different part of the pentatonic. We're gonna go open D, up on the E, 2nd fret of the D string, down on the G, and then up on the A. Okay? So that's the only new part in measure 7, basically, that little G major pentatonic thing. I'll play it a few times here. Got a cool sound to it. Thinking about the feelings that you hear as you're learning this stuff slowly can help you enjoy slow practice, because that's a tough thing for a lot of people. But if we think about the colors and the feelings and the emotions that come with these notes, it can help us understand and enjoy. Here in measure 8, we've just got a simple little ending lick, right? It's a little scale pattern where we are jumping in what's known as thirds. Right, I'm going from the 3rd note to the 1st note of the G major scale, then from the 2nd note to a lower 7th note, right? So we're just skipping over some notes. But as I said, we're at the end of the A section, so instead of going to, this A-D chord change, which makes our ear want to hear us go back to the G, right? It introduces tension in a way. We're totally resolving that here at the end of the section. Going back home, okay? So again, going down on the B, up on the G, down on the A, 2nd fret of the G, up on the D string, 4th fret. Okay, I'll just play those 4 notes a few times. Just resolve with that open G note there, okay? The thing you want to watch out for is the timing, because up to this point we've had just big streams of 16th notes, and the last note in this A section in measure 8, we've got a quarter note, right? So it's lasting as long as 4 of the other notes we've been hearing. So in TuneFox, you would want to use the focus feature so you can loop that measure repeatedly so you hear the timing and you can play along and practice with it. I'm going to play that whole measure a few times for you guys so you have that as well here if you're watching on YouTube. 2, E, and 2, E, and Right? So if we're going really slow, we could just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. At some point, you might want to learn more of the classical way of counting using 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, or as we have it written out here in TuneFox, 1, E, and So we've got a number followed by E and to follow each of those little 4 subdivisions, just like these 4-note scale patterns we've been seeing here. 1 E and A, 2 E and A. So that's how we'd count it if we're reading this in TuneFox. So there's 8 notes there, kind of per measure. You could even count it 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I was working through a classical banjo book recently, and most of the stuff there is written in 2/4 using these 16th notes, but they even said in there, totally okay to just do 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, marking each of those 8 16th notes if you want to count them that way. All right, now we're hopping into the B section. Gonna get out of music nerd mode just for a second. And now we're going from a more major sound to a minor sound. We're going to E minor, which is a relative of G major. It shares a lot of the same notes. The notes in a G major chord, G, B, and D. The notes in an E minor chord, E, G, and B. So they share 2 of the same notes. And scale-wise, honestly, they're the same scale with different starting points. If I'm doing an E minor scale, right? That's my scale for that. Now look, if I do my G major, it's going to play almost all the same notes. All right, we just got 2 more, which are the same notes, just higher up. So we get a different starting and ending point. Get a different perspective on the same sound. All right, scales, let's learn them and practice them as you're learning this tune. Make it your warm-up or something like that. Okay, so measure 9 here. First measure of the B section. Thinking out of this E minor chord, okay? And we've got an octave jump here. We're going from a low E, open, to this E note that's on the 2nd fret of the D string. So we're going to go E, and then down on that E, and then up on this B note that's in this E minor chord, the 2nd fret of the A string. And I'm going to play the whole measure here. This one it's not as dense, you know, there's not as many notes as we had in the A section, so it's I think a little bit better just to do the whole measure instead of just half a measure at a time like we were doing. So we got the low E right there in the 2nd fret, and then we're picking up on the B note, and then we're going open D, picking down, back to the E note on the D string, picking down again. So we've only got 1 up pick in this measure. Okay, all right, if I'm counting this, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Okay, that one, not too bad, but can be tricky because of the octave jump where you're having to jump over the strings with your pick, and we've just got that quick string crossing where you're going down up, okay? So this is an important one in the B part because it repeats 5 times. So if you get this one down, not only will you have down measure 9, you'll have down measure 10 and 11, and a few others as well. Measures 13 and 14 actually are the other ones that just use that same lick, right? We're hanging on the E chord a lot. That might seem basic and boring, but that's kind of the melody. It can be a lot of fun when you play with your accents, and also if you're looking in TuneFox, we've got a lot of licks which show you how you can add in some variations to make this often repetitive part a little bit more interesting. All right, measure 12, we're going off the E minor chord and going to this B7. So we're not going to play the same thing. We're not going to play a bunch of E notes over the B7 chord. We could, but instead we're just going to go with something a bit more simple. We're going to play this B note on the 2nd fret of the A string, and then we're going to go down on the A string, open, and then up on the 2nd fret of the E string, and then down on the open A, then down again on this 2nd fret B note, okay? Play that a few times. looking at that chord shape, seeing how it's playing right out of the chord, because this is a lick that you could potentially use in another song when this B7 chord comes up. All right, measures 15 and 16. It's the same way that we end the A section. That's also really common in fiddle tunes and instrumental music and this old time stuff and bluegrass, where the ending licks for the A section often match and can be interchanged, you know, with the ending licks that are in the B section. So it's a great place for some standard variations. Make sure to check out the licks in TuneFox. All right, I'm going to do a playthrough example. I'm going to play the A part just once, but very, very, very slowly. And then I'll do the B part after that super slowly. And then later, after both that, play through the whole tune at a nice kind of slow medium speed and go through each part twice, A, A, B, B, which is the normal form of this tune. 1, E, and 2, E, and all right, now for the B part. 1, E, and 2, E, and something I just realized in this B part, we've got this E minor chord down and we're coming to the end lick that starts on like a C note. It's going to be easiest, I feel like, to grab it with the ring finger, although you could just play this note with your middle finger short and then shift. But I like grabbing it with the ring finger. Play this run out of first position, right out of that chord shape. And then when we come to the last measure, we got the 2 open notes, and that's a good chance to shift, right? So I'm shifting in a second position, so I can grab that 2nd and 4th fret note right before I resolve it. Okay, so you got options, and that is a good one. All right, I'm gonna go a little bit faster now. Still got the metronome set to 60 beats per minute, but now instead of imagining it on those 16th notes, I'm thinking of it as the 8th notes. So the way I've gotten it written out, we're now gonna be doing 2 notes per click. So 1 and 2 and 1 E and 2 E and Now I'm going to go through, metronome still set at 60 beats per minute, but now I'm imagining this set to quarter notes. So we're getting 4 notes per click as we're going through this, at least in the A section. Obviously in the B section we've got some longer notes, but when we have this stream of notes, we're imagining 4 notes per click now. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a. All right, so now I'm going to play this at a bit more of like a jam tempo, moderate jam tempo, not too fast, and I'm going to lead off with some potatoes. So I'm going to play down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. And right after I do that, I'm going to launch into the tune. So it'll just be bum, diddy, bum, diddy, bum, diddy, bum, or as we'd count this, 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and, right? So we're just leaving that space, not playing anything there, and then I'd jump into the tune. So it'd be like 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2. Okay? A quick practice tip I wanted to give, besides breaking it up in small pieces and working slow, some of the times the pick hand is a bigger struggle than you realize, and you can check in with that. So you might want to take a measure or just one of these 4-note pick patterns and look at what's going on with the pick hand and just play that. Leave out your fret hand. Don't fret anything. It's going to sound not that great, but it's going to allow you mentally to really focus on your pick hand and divert all your mental resources just to that. Let me take, for example, a piece that has a lot of string crossings here. So like this. That little pentatonic run, right? Sometimes that can be tough at speeds, right? So you might need to work on it not only just to get it cleanly, but just to build up strength, stamina, endurance, and speed and all that stuff. But just playing what's going on with the pick hand can help you improve with that and just help you understand what you need to do. For example, right, when you're on the A string, you got to make sure that your pick goes past the D, but not too far past the D. We still want to be economical. And when you go up, we don't want it to go too far up because we got to go right down on that D again. And we got to go past the D and be ready to go up on the G. Okay, doesn't sound that great, but again, it is a good form of practice, just focusing on what's happening with your pick hand. So I've talked about the scales a lot. In TuneFox, we've got a lot of exercises and video lessons for these scales and really working on those folded scale patterns and scale exercises is going to be a big help here, and it's going to be kind of a test. Like, if you can't play the basic scale pattern at a certain speed, you're probably not going to be able to play the song at a certain speed, right? So practice those scales along with, practicing this song in pieces like we talked about. So if you're still struggling with this after a while of practicing, something you might want to consider is using that difficulty slider in TuneFox. It's going to dial out some of the extra notes. And that's going to give you a bit more of a simple safety net of a solo to use as a launching pad to work on variations, or to start playing at faster speeds, or just to get playing the tune at all. That's okay. And you're going to still end up with something that sounds pretty good. Check this out. So we're going to go from, the notey version we had, right, to something a bit more simple, but still sounds pretty cool. Not too bad, still sounds nice, and is going to be a lot more achievable at faster speeds. So I'm going to talk about some of the licks you can check out in TuneFox. There's a lot to explore. Just a lot of variations using some of the same concepts that we've already talked about that this version is built on, right? So scale patterns, there's some alternate scale patterns, pentatonic runs, there's some alternate pentatonic runs. Arpeggios, that's something we didn't really talk about. So arpeggios is like playing chord notes one at a time. And so those are something really cool because they're easily dropped into other tunes a lot of the times, because it's just outlining chord tones that are happening. So it's pretty much always going to sound good with that chord. So check out some of those arpeggio licks. Arpeggio licks often have a lot of string crossings, so those might be some of the licks where you want to do what I said, where we just take a look at what's going on with the pick hand, and practice that. Okay, so remember that pick hand practice on those arpeggios if needed. There's also some alternate fingerings options, maybe a few I didn't discuss in this video. Alternate fingerings is just a different way to play the same thing, like we talked about that first 4-note opening run. Right, we could play that B note instead of open on the 4th fret of the G string. So the alternate fingerings are just going to show you some different perspective and sometimes some easier options of how to play the same thing. There's also some cool chromatic ideas. I really like these. They're cool in the B part and the A part. I think they're especially cool in the B part as you approach this A7 to D chord, because that A7 already has a note that's not in the G major scale. So when we use that as like a passing tone and we go a fret by fret, a half step at a time, that is by definition chromatic movement. So because we've got basically chromatic stuff happening in the chords, it makes sense and sound-wise to do that in the lead as well. And I played one in the intro it's pretty fun. Right? That's actually combining two different licks to get a really cool ascending chromatic run. This next part isn't in TuneFox, but I think it's just a fun concept that I'll do sometimes, and I hear people do a lot in this song. The B part's really repetitive both in the chords and the melody, because we're just hanging on E minor for a while. So lots of times I will hear people kind of quote or tease popular songs that have a minor flavor to it. I've heard Inspector Gadget. Right? That one works really well because that ends up going to a chord tone of the B7, right? What's some other ones that could work? Basically anything that's minor pentatonic is a good bet. Play That Funky Music, White Boy could work. I don't know if you heard it, but right after I went to the B7 chord, I did a little bit of, what was that, Superstition, Stevie Wonder, again another minor pentatonic. Bit more of an advanced concept. You've got to understand these scales, have a well of music to draw from, and then have awareness for where these chord changes are happening, because when you don't want to be playing an E minor lick right over the B7 most of the time. So maybe a bit more of an advanced concept, but I wanted to throw that out there for some of you people that are looking for some variations and ways to come up with variations for this tune. So look for some E minor pentatonic sounding stuff for that B section, or just any minor pentatonic stuff, and you can transpose it to E minor. E harmonic minor can work really well because that scale will both work for E minor and it will work over that B7 chord. Okay, so it works over E minor and B7, and we've got a few harmonic minor licks you can check out in TuneFox. Also at the end of the A section and the B section, I've got a few licks just labeled lead-ins, and these are adding just a few extra notes that help lead into the B section or the A section. So usually, as written, we've got kind of a long note there at the end. And it's nice because we've got a nice long stretch, and that lick will work for going into the A part or the B part. You're not having to learn two different things at first. But it's very common to have lead-in notes, and we're just going to add something simple here. Let me think here. Yeah. Right, so just adding in those two notes, open D to open E. Helps lead us back into the A part, or it can lead into the B part again. Right? Sounds pretty sick, actually. Alright, so there's a pretty standard version of Blackberry Blossom with a whole heap of practice tips and advice for you guys to dive into. We talked about a lot of the musical concepts being used, you know, your major scales, major pentatonic scales, and arpeggios, all of which are good to practice separately from the song. They help you understand the song, learn it quicker, and learn other songs that use the same musical devices quicker as well, and can help you identify those when listening to songs and strengthen your kind of hand-to-ear connections. So your next step, we talked about a lot of those licks. Dive in, you know, try a few of those licks, isolate them, work on them, you know, a measure at a time, just like we kind of worked on this song, you know, a half a measure at a time or a measure at a time. After you can play that lick cleanly, you know, maybe 3 times in a row, then try to play the song, but try to play it at the same speed you practiced the lick at. Another good step might be trying to learn this one up the neck. Right, we're going to learn out of this 7th position, kind of C shape. It'll just give you some more ammunition to really explore the neck of the guitar and have some different variations of Blackberry Blossom in the go, or in the can, ready to go if you're at a jam. Definitely check out the rhythm. You want to understand the chords and be able to play the chords and the rhythm patterns in any song you're playing lead to, I think. One, it helps you focus on good timing, which good timing can help your lead playing be better. And again, understanding how scales and melodies are connected to chord changes, I think are important for memorizing the tune. And again, it's like learning how to reverse engineer stuff. If we can see, you know, the G scale is connected to the G chord, it can help us see that C scales are often connected to C chords. And eventually, you know, we start to learn to put those pieces together on our own. Alright, that was a lot, but I hope there was some stuff you guys connected with and that you enjoyed, and I really, really, really hope it helps. Keep picking and stay tuned.